appreciate you guys being here so much for this breaking update. If you guys could just take a minute and hit the thumbs up, 104, on right now. So I appreciate you. What's up, Chris? I appreciate you being here, man. Look, what has happened right now with the transfer portal is I think it has worked out really well for Coach Kalen DeBoer. A couple reasons why. I think what he was able to do immediately was address needs. And if you follow my shows, and by the way, I'm on live every single day at 9 a.m., we talk a lot about fulfilling needs, right? And addressing needs as you look to the roster, to the depth chart. And we knew, what did we know? And if you're excited about King Mack committing to Alabama, will you type Y inside the comment box? Y means yes, that you're excited for King Mack coming in. And then I have a couple questions that I wanted to ask for you guys as well in terms of the most impactful transfer that you think will be added to Alabama, right? So I think when we look to King Mack is a player who's a young guy. Kevin's like, RMFT, yeah. And so he's a safety. He's a defensive back that can play a variety of positions. He's a younger guy, and I'll bring up some more detail on him right now. Literally, this news just came in, and we're on it right now at Bama Football on YouTube. So King Mack, he's a safety. He was a true freshman, and he appeared in all 13 games last season for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And for Penn State. And when you do a little bit more detail on King Mack, you see that King Mack is a player who, was very, is a 4-star. I'm going to bring up something on the screen right here that helps us with a little bit more information on King Mack. I use On3. I'm not affiliated with, any of the recruiting sites or anything like that. I use On3 because it's a little bit more aesthetically eye-pleasing to me. But as you can see, King Mack, he was a 4-star coming out of high school, out of St. Thomas Aquinas. And when you look to kind of the Florida talent, right? We've seen that be here before. The Florida talent certainly shines through. And I think he is a versatile player being added. So he was a true freshman last year, played in 13 games. But what we saw from him was mostly on special teams. I'm going to bring up his highlights right now so we can look to his highlights and see what he did, in high school in terms of what he's bringing to Alabama. So when you look to Alabama's secondary, and I have another graphic that kind of goes over Alabama's secondary. Just stay with me real quick. I think that here's highlights. I'm going to bring up his highlights real quick. And this is from his season. So we'll look at these and we'll get this added in just a second. But when you look to Alabama's secondary, right, you have your corners, probably going to be Deshaun Jones battling it out with, Xavier Brown, right? You had Damani Jackson, and he's from USC. Deshaun Jones from Wake Forest. You're going to have Keon Sabb, who's coming from Michigan. So 3 transfers right there to Alabama's secondary. And here are King Mack's highlights real quick. Let's get those up. I'm going to add this to the screen in just one second. Now, I appreciate you guys joining me for this breaking news. Just one second while I get this added. Here we go. And we'll go full screen. I'll continue to talk on the other side when we look at this. So one second, let me just get this framed up. So this is King Mack out of high school. Let's see what he got. He was only a true freshman last year, but let's look at the tape. And I'll bring this full screen, and I'll lower that banner as well. All right, so King Mack, and like I was saying, when you look to this Alabama secondary, the way I see it kind of shaking out is Deshaun Jones at the corner position, Damani Jackson, and Keon Sabb. Those guys each are transfers into Alabama, right? Damani Jackson was under Coach Saban, and then Keon Sabb under Coach Kalen DeBoer, and Deshaun Jones, who committed a couple days ago from Wake Forest. So Deshaun Jones, he played. He has experience. He played in 37. He had 37 tackles last season and 3 interceptions. Damani Jackson last season, 32 tackles and 3 pass deflections. So those guys have experience. You also have King Sabb. This guy is an absolute monster. I think he might be one of the better players on the defense. And then you have Malachi Moore, right? I don't know if it's going to be Devontae Smith at the star position, or it's going to be Red Morgan, who's a freshman. But so when you look to guys that are reserves, you have Xavier Brown, Jahil Hurley, Jalen Mbakwe, Zay Mincy, Brayson Hubbard, Jake Kirkpatrick, and Cam Howard. Cam Howard is another addition that was added out of Charlotte. So what you're watching right here is new Alabama commitment, King Mack. And King Mack, as you can see, I mean, he's got a lot of playmaking ability right now. And he's a younger guy. He's only going to be a sophomore, a second-year player this coming season, played in 13 games last season for Penn State as a true freshman. So, the first couple of clips that we've seen, he's returning punts, right? And he's got some good speed. He's got a really good stride, gets down the field. And, I have no idea if he comes in here and he plays special teams or if he's going to be a reserve. I don't know. We don't know the detail on that, but here he is, even at the quarterback position, it looks like off kind of just a simple quarterback keeper. So he's a playmaker. Here he is at the safety position over here, reads the ball really well across the middle of the field. I'm sure he's going to take this to the house. And this is the kind of the detail on King Mack. So let me ask you this, inside the comment box, on a scale of, when we're talking, what you're worried about or how you're feeling about Alabama's secondary, how would you rate Alabama's secondary right now, with 10 being the highest in terms of their skill set? Do you feel that Alabama 10, that you're going to be, that it's going to be an elite group, or do you think it's going to be kind of a 1, on the low end? Obviously, it's not going to be a 1, but are you feeling a little bit more confident about Alabama's skill set at the secondary based on the fact that they brought in Deshaun Jones, they brought in Amani Jackson, they brought in Keon Sabb, they brought in Cam Howard, and today they bring in King Mack? Let me know what you think. Ricky is saying 9 inside the comment box. Question Everything is saying 8. So yeah, I mean, some good detail on that in terms of, yeah. And you know what, EJ, what's up, man? I appreciate it. This is that's a really good ad right there. In terms of, you lose Peyton Woodyard, right? And you're able to add King Mack, who has more experience because he did play. You know what? And I look to the guys that did left, and not to bring up the guys who left from Alabama, in the secondary, but, you had Caleb Downs. Clearly that was the biggest one, right? And no, you can't. Hey, Chris, you can't put up. If I was to put his tape from college, then the channel gets shut down because of copyright. So this is clearly how I get by. Otherwise, I would put his stuff up. But this is just a couple years ago. I mean, this is 2 seasons ago. He's just a true freshman. So I appreciate it. That's why, Chris, and you'll see every other channel that has major following is they can only show, like, think about Matt B. Gray. He lives off high school tape because he can't show tape. In fact, I uploaded one time Devontae Smith catching a touchdown, the University of Alabama. My channel got demonetized for the entire month of October back in like 2018. So it scared the crap out of me. But I love you, Chris, man. So it's all good. But you look at the guys who left Alabama, right? Caleb Downs clearly being the most impactful. I still feel that, and I was talking with Coach Sean about this earlier, is like Earl Little, right? I know he went to Florida State. And good for him. I just felt like some of the guys left a little bit too early in terms of, staying the course and being able to be impactful. So today you get King Mack. I think it is impactful overall in terms of him being added to this team. I don't know. I don't think he's going to be an immediate starter. I think he's going to be on the reserve sides. But now you start to look to the Alabama players that are going to be in the reserves, right? And again, I don't know how the roster is going to shake out, but you do have Deshaun Jones. You do have Damani Jackson coming back, Devontae Smith, Keon Sabb, Malachi Moore. Those are going to be your guys that are veterans, right? Going to be your guys who, see the field and can add value immediately. And then you start to look at the reserves. And look, when you're a reserve, you're only one player away. No, he is not. CD, what's up? I appreciate you being here. He is not a high school player. He was a freshman at Penn State, but we are looking at his high school film because we can only show his high school film. We can't show his clips at Penn State. By the way, at Penn State, he mostly played just special teams. So, EJ, I think this is a good point out right here. Let's get your comment up on the board. From day one, this staff has been plugging in everyone that pops up. I think this is a wonderful point because you look at the transfers. Now let's talk about the transfers that have come in, and then I'm going to put on the screen a graphic of the secondary just so we can get an idea of where things stand with Alabama secondary. Let me ask you, because I've been asking this the entire, the last 2 weeks now that the transfer portal is closed out. The transfers under Coach Kalen DeBoer that have come in during the spring window, who do you feel will be most impactful? Right. So let's just kind of highlight, the big time guys. Caden Proctor. Do you think it'll be Caden Proctor coming in? Do you think it'll be Keon Sabb? Do you think it'll be Graham Nicholson? At the kicker, that's who I went with in terms of, the transfers coming in. because I feel like the amount of points that you're going to have as a kicker, a lot of people feel that it's going to be Caden Proctor. You also have Parker Brailsford. Alabama needed a center. And you know what? I was thinking about this with the center position. Seth leaves. James Brockemeyer left as well. You know who else left? And I was thinking about this today. Terrence Ferguson also left, and he's at Florida State. I felt that he could have battled out for that starting center position. I don't know why he didn't play more last season. Jimmy Lee Baker, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for being part of Bama Football on YouTube. So who do you think out of the transfers during the spring window will be the most impactful pickup? Let me know inside the comment box while I load up this graphic on the other side to kind of show you what Alabama's secondary could look like. And again, at the bottom of the screen, as you can see, King Mack, I love that name. It might be my favorite name so far on the roster. So far has committed to Alabama today out of the transfer portal. And good things continue to happen for Alabama. And I think the next player to transfer to Alabama will probably be an offensive lineman by the name of Gino Vandemark. Yeah, he's at a Michigan State. Look him up. Gino Vandemark. That is his name. And he's an interior lineman, and I think he could commit within the next couple of days or so. So we just looked at King Mack's highlights. Again, you can rewatch his video. You can look it up yourself. So let me now add a graphic that kind of shows you Alabama's secondary, and I'll go full screen on this so you can get kind of a better idea. And if you guys can help me with something real quick, can you guys add the stats last year of Keon Sabb at Michigan? I would appreciate that. All right, so let's go full screen so you can see this. And I will take down this banner. So here's kind of a look, a zoom out. And again, this doesn't have King Mack on the board because he just committed and I haven't updated this graphic. But to give you an idea of where things stand with Alabama right now in the secondary, you have Deshaun Jones up top. And hypothetically, I'm just putting him there as a starter. He comes in with a lot of experience. I'm sure he's going to have to battle with Xavier Brown for that starting spot. But most of the transfers, if you're transferring somewhere and you have some experience, you're more than likely going to be a starter, in my opinion. Again, this is all going to be hashed out in August during position battles. But you have Deshaun Jones, who comes in from Wake Forest last season, 37 tackles and 3 interceptions. I like that. Damani Jackson comes in from USC, right? Those are going to be your 2 corners, I would imagine. And can someone please look up Keon Sabb's stats real quick if you can. Matthew, I will get to you on Khalil Jacobs visiting this weekend. I'm not sure. I haven't heard too much on Khalil Jacobs, and you're like, who is Khalil Jacobs? He is an inside linebacker out of South Alabama that played under Kane Womack. So then at the star position, Devontae Smith, who has a good experience, and I felt that he would have been a starter. Jimmy Baker with the detail, I appreciate it. But he got injured last year. But you have Red Morgan, who was a monster, probably one of the top freshmen, for Alabama this past spring season. You have Keon Sabb, and according to Jimmy Baker down here, my boy, he had 28 total tackles, 14 total tackles, and 2 interceptions. And look, from what I saw from Keon Sabb, I think he could be one of Alabama's best players. On the defensive side, he also had 4 pass deflections. And then you have Malachi Moore. I will get his stats added as well, but I know that he had over I think like 548 total snaps last year. So he's the guy. Like, you're going to see him at SEC Media Days. And again, this is just kind of going over Alabama's secondary, the way it looks like. Let me ask you, Undefeated, do you feel more confident today looking at Alabama's secondary than you did, I don't know, a couple weeks ago or coming out of A-Day? I do. I feel that Deshaun Jones is a big pickup. I wanted a player that had experience. Let me get these. The dogs are yelling outside. And I wanted to see to have them have more experience, right? And that's something that they didn't have. Look, I think Xavier Brown is going to be a fine corner in time, but I think if you were to play a game tomorrow, which is Saturday, I think that Alabama is going to be in some trouble, specifically if they play SEC wide receivers. Now, look, don't get it twisted. The SEC wide receivers that Alabama played last year were remarkable. And I say that, look, Tennessee, their wide receivers were elite. Ole Miss, their wide receivers were really good. They faced Texas, who Texas is now in the SEC. Those guys are good. LSU, my goodness. Can you imagine these guys have like a young Xavier Brown having to deal with like a Malik Neighbors or something like that? So these guys will grow and get better in time. So you needed some veteran experience. And I think King Mack, what he brings, and again, King Mack has committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Yeah, Caleb, those are the dogs barking in the back. Yeah, I do have 2 French bulldogs, but I think it's another dog that I have here that is yapping. But and I saw this, and we talked about this before. Georgia, what they have besides Carson Beck, they also I think they're a 4.5 point favorite, early favorite against Alabama coming in. Look, Alabama is going to be challenged, and Malachi Moore with 51 total tackles last year and 30 total tackles. Yeah, Matthew, I made it through the storm. That storm was crazy last night, fam. So I live right in Tuscaloosa. I actually don't live far from where Coach Saban lives. Actually, Coach Kalen DeBoer just bought this monster house about in the same neighborhood as Coach Saban. So Coach Saban, I'm sure a lot of you guys know where he lives. Coach DeBoer is in that same neighborhood. Bought one of the biggest houses in Tuscaloosa. It's this monstrous house that he just bought, and rightfully so. I mean, he's making $10 million a year. So there's a look at your secondary, and I feel really good about the pickup today. And King Mack, I like what he brings to the table. He's going to be a reserve type guy, I would imagine. In the early format of this roster, I can kind of see at the bottom. Those are the reserves. Xavier Brown, Jalil Hurley, Jalen Mbakwe. I can slide the banner down one more time. Bray Hubbard's good. Really good. Drake Kirkpatrick, really good. Cam Howard, he was the addition as well from Charlotte. And now you have another big pickup in King Mack out of Penn State. So that's how things are shaking for Alabama. And yeah, I would imagine, Caleb, that Alabama is still trying to make some play for Zion Grady. Deshaun Lee is a 5-star that I think he was predicted to come to Alabama. But for whatever reason, I think that was one. So how those the recruiting sites work, like On3, if somebody puts in a prediction, then he's like RPM to go somewhere. But he hasn't been like Steve Whitfong hasn't predicted him to go, or like Andrew Bones. So I think you're still early in play for Deshaun Lee, who's probably the most talented prospect in 2025 on the defensive side of the ball at the corner position. He is a 5-star. So that's kind of where we are. Lack says, wish I had a G to take Bama and in that 4 right now. You know what? If you're talking about value too, and I know NCAA football, the game came out today with Jalen Milroe, who's on the cover, right? I mean, he's at plus 1,800. Right? If you're talking value for the Heisman and you got some extra cash, that's not that's a lot. You talk about value, there's going to be your value right here, because look, there's a lot of critics that are going to talk about Jalen Milroe, this or that. He can't do this, do that. The guy has a 99.6 downfield ball from Pro Football Focus, better than anybody else in college football. If he can improve on that short game stuff with these weapons that he has, Jeremy Bernard, Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice, and utilize him in this new system under Coach Kalen DeBoer, I don't know how many yards he's going to throw for. And most importantly, I don't know how dangerous he's going to be as a quarterback. I think like his ceiling is still really high, because we really haven't seen him even run the ball, right? There's been times where he's kind of just danced back and forth, but it's just like if he just takes over a game, and we really saw him take over a game against Georgia, right? So anyways, I don't know. Jack saying Milroe, Lamar Jackson, I don't know. That might not be a bad comparison, but we just haven't seen him really run the football yet. Back to King Mack. He is the prospect that committed today to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Big pickup for Coach Kalen DeBoer. Before I get out of here, let me just ask you guys real quick. In terms of the biggest transfer that has come in so far under Coach Kalen DeBoer, who is it? I'm going to give you a minute. And let me ask you this. How excited on a scale of 1 to 10 are you about King Mack coming? 10 being the absolute highest, 5, 4, and Ricky, I'll show that in just a minute. What do you think in terms of King Mack committing to Alabama? Zalter is saying Parker Brailsford for his pick to be the most impactful. Jimmy, I'm with you, man. I think the kicker is Matt Farms is saying an 8. Cody's saying a 6. I'm probably like a 6.5. Which is, he's a young guy. He's got room to grow, but you needed depth. This would be like Alabama landing a 4-star member of the secondary that has experience. So I actually might be like a 6.5, maybe a little bit higher. Big Matt is saying 9 for King Mack. I appreciate you being here. Jimmy is saying 9. And then in terms of who will be the most impactful transfer, man, I think that's a really great question. Let me see what the community board said today on Bama football. I know there was a ton of votes. I go to the community tab. If you go to the community tab, you just hit community. And out of 1,600 votes, Caden Proctor at 34%, Graham Nicholson at 19%, Keon Sabb at 12%, Parker Brailsford at 18%, and Jeremy Bernard at 16%. So pretty good voting. And I think those are all big pickups. And I think each of those guys will play. It's still amazing to me that Caden Proctor went to Iowa and got paid, and he's coming back to Alabama, right? Jack's like, kickers don't count. No, Jack, no. You imagine all the points that Will Reichard, what if those points didn't count for Will Reichard? I promise you, man. Tony Mitchell, man, I wish that we would have seen a healthy Tony Mitchell. I really do. I felt that Tony Mitchell left. He was never healthy this spring. He had a hamstring apparatus. Man, I thought that he should have stayed. T. Smitty saying Courtney Morgan said on the 24/7 Sports interview, prioritizing high school talent and filling holes in the portal. This is the way to do it, right? This is the way to do it. Is you want to still have the high school pipelines coming in, and you can't buy this team from the transfer portal. I don't think that you can buy look, Ole Miss is going to be really good. Ohio State is going to be really good, but we've seen teams try to buy teams before. You cannot buy a team because you're not going to have enough cohesiveness. The players who are, I'm just going to say this, the players who are being bought at the highest level are probably more on the selfish side, or they have people behind the handlers that are pushing them into the portal because they want their own. I think the best way to do it with the portal is kind of the way that Coach Kalen DeBoer has done it. You fix it with going to your exact needs. Alabama needed a center. Alabama needed a kicker. Alabama needed a tackle. They got all those guys. Matthew, great point. You're right. Like, ask Colorado, how can you completely build from the transfer portal? Yeah, you can get a team for sure with a bunch of different guys, but the same thing that is going to happen with Colorado. I mean, we talked about the Big 12 rankings today. Colorado's not in there. And I think Shadori Sanders will have a fine season. I think he's a good quarterback. But I still like the way that Alabama has set this up. I like the way they're going about this from the transfer portal. Feels good getting King Mack in today. And I think Gino Vandemark will probably be the next guy to be added. The transfer portal, just because, there's still going to be movement with guys committing. The portal is closed, meaning they can't go into the portal. But if you're already in the portal, you can still commit, right? Jack is saying that Colorado had 38 transfers in the year. College football is crazy. I'm curious to see when we load up the video game, how are we going to deal with this transfer portal playing, right? You're going to be playing like your season, and you're going to have to be dealing with the transfer portal. Talk about headache. The champ is saying Lane Kiffin live or die by the portal. 100%. I mean, this year he went all in to the portal with who he got in terms of loading up his roster. They only lost 2 games last year. That's it, to Alabama and Georgia. Now, what we all know about Ole Miss is the fact, who is their defensive coordinator? Sound off in the comment box. Chris is saying, like Kyle said, he's basically a 4-star recruit. He just had a year in college to work out program, which will be better for us, right? Alabama had 30 transfers. Z Jones is saying. I think if you add in total, guys leaving, guys coming in, that would be a really good graphic to look at, because there has been a ton of guys to exit. There has been a ton of guys to come in. It's amazing. This is, and we have to get used to that. And I kind of I'm looking at the transfer portal right now as just the spring transfer portal, right? The champ's I was asking you guys, who can answer this? Who is Ole Miss's defensive coordinator? The champ, you have it, but say his name. Someone type it out. It's Pete Golding. Right? Man, it's Pete Golding. Pete Golding is Ole Miss's defensive coordinator. So that's where things stand for them. Ohio State, their offensive coordinator was almost Bill O'Brien, right? Before he took the head job. That would have been that was those things made my head scratch, right? Seth going to Ohio State as a center, and then Bill O'Brien being their almost offensive coordinator. Can you imagine that? Think about the last 2 offensive coordinators for Alabama, okay? The last 3 seasons. Bill O'Brien in Tommy Rees. I think Tommy Rees will be a fine offensive coordinator. He is the current tight ends coach for the Cleveland Browns, right? Now you have Nick Sheridan, but I think this is more a three-headed approach from the offensive coordinator standpoint because Kalen DeBoer is an offensive-minded coach. So, Nick Sheridan was just the tight ends coach at Washington. This is a hell of a jump for him, but he's going to be overseen by Coach Kalen DeBoer. I promise you, Kalen DeBoer is letting those guys do their thing, but the offensive coordinator, in my opinion, will be Coach Kalen DeBoer, just like we all knew at the end of the day that the defense was called by Coach Saban. And look, Alabama, they had to change. Like, they had to move their offense. They had to change their offense to this more up-tempo style of college football. And Coach Saban did that. And now I think Coach Kalen DeBoer will continue to feed off that. But today you get King Mack in. It's a big pickup for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I like it. I want to know your thoughts inside the comment box. So definitely let me know what you think about the big pickup from Penn State. He's a young guy, played in 13 games last year. And, Alabama's not finished yet. I mean, you look at the guys that they added this spring: Caden Proctor, Deshaun Jones, King Mack, Cam Howard, Graham Nicholson. The thing is, this has been my last thing. Graham Nicholson coming in, you didn't just get like a top kicker. You got the Luke Groza Award winner coming in. It's crazy, right? That's like, man, because I'll tell you what, Matthew, does anybody know if Khalil Jacobs is visiting this weekend? I haven't heard if he's coming back, because I know he was supposed to be back. He was supposed to be coming in this last weekend after visiting with Auburn. I don't know if he's coming this week, but we will keep you posted. All right. And I'll put up another video if I find out some more intel on Khalil Jacob. You know what, Steve? I think with Tommy Rees, I think the stage was too big for him. It's like if you just got your keys to drive, right? If you just became 16 years old and I had a Porsche out there, or a Ferrari or a Bugatti out there for you to drive, and I was like, drive it. You're not ready. You're not ready. I was like, drive this down to Mobile, Alabama from Tuscaloosa. Not ready, right? Drive it across the country. You're not ready. Drive this 18-wheeler. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't ready. You'll be ready at some points in time. Nick Sheridan's, he's a young guy too. But my point is, he's being overseen by Coach Kalen DeBoer. That's why I feel more confident about this offense going in. Plus, I know that this offense develops quarterbacks, whereas Tommy Rees, he even referred to himself as an offensive lineman. And Bill O'Brien, my goodness, I don't know what he was doing with, quarterbacks, right? You like that analogy, Steven? That's what I'm saying. I don't think that he was ready for the arsenal that Alabama had. So Rees needed, yeah, exactly. Lance, exactly. You know what Rees needed? He needed an old station wagon, the old truck, right? All right, get things going. You don't need you don't just get keys to Bugatti. And I do think the game passed Bill O'Brien by, So anyways, big pickup today for Alabama. It ends your Friday in a great, light. You're going to the weekend happy. You got King Mack coming in. Your transfers, you're feeling good about them. And T is texting me. Taylor is texting me. Jacobs is planning to reschedule his visit, but no hard dates set as of yet. That's the latest on Khalil Jacobs. But I know that Geno Vandermark has already been forecasted to come to Alabama. Let me see if I can bring up one more thing on Geno Vandermark. Geno Vandermark. All right. He's out of Michigan State, and I think he has ties to Coach Kapilovic. He's a big transfer that went in. He's not even on the roster anymore. Let's see. See if I can find him on On3. So this is, once again, we're going to use On3's interface to look at what I feel could be Alabama's next commitment from the transfer portal. If you're seeing this is Geno Vandermark. Geno Vandermark, and again, thank you, On3, for letting us use your interface. He was a 3-star as a recruit. He is 6'5", 300 pounds. He's an interior offensive lineman, and he entered the transfer portal, I guess, on April 30th. And I've seen that he's been predicted to go to Alabama. It looks like this on here says that maybe he's forecasted to Oklahoma. I don't know. All I know is things are getting hot for him, in terms of where he could end up. And this could be a guy to certainly watch, and we will keep you posted on Khalil Jacobs as well. But I don't think Alabama's done in the transfer portal. And that's fine. I'm excited to see who's coming next. The news doesn't stop, man. And then we didn't even talk basketball, right? I mean, my boy, Toby from Leeds, the biggest football fan in the world for Alabama, he called me today. And, I was talking to him, and he was like, talking about Alabama football, and we were excited. And then we're talking about basketball. And it's just like, it's crazy. This is a basketball and football school. Ty, Friday has been amazing. My birthday commits and Kyle live show. Dude, every morning, man, on Friday every morning at 9 a.m. I got you covered. But happy birthday to you, man. I hope you have a fantastic birthday. And I was talking about this on my workout, and I told this to everybody. I led the workout today. If you want a free workout at F3, come talk to me on Twitter. But I was like, enjoy the presence, right? Be here. We get one trip around, and so celebrate that moment, man. Be with your family. Call your mom. Everybody, please call your mom on Mother's Day, or better yet, get her flowers and go take them to her. And we really appreciate you, and we appreciate all the moms out there, because moms make the world go round, and we appreciate all of the moms in this great world. It's been an amazing Friday. King Mack is in. You guys have a really good Friday. Go enjoy yourself. Let your hair down. Enjoy this great thing called life. We will catch you soon on the next video right here on Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys being here, and look for more news as it comes. So make sure you are subscribed to Bama Football on YouTube. 105,000 subscribers and climbing. We'll talk to you soon right here on Bama Football on YouTube.